What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live. Sorry for the stream being live later. The Photoshop was giving me a ton of trouble, but I got the graphics done, so we are ready to go for picks against the spread as usual, and then we'll preview the Celtics game. So still a normal stream on tap. None of the games start until 4:30, so still everything should be pretty normal with picks against the spread. I hope you are having a good day. Belgian, it wasn't my fault, man. I've been working at this for 2 hours. Photoshop wanted to give me a bunch of headaches today, man. So I'll have to try and figure that out so that doesn't happen again. But hopefully everybody's days are going good. Bonnie asked if I live in a cave. No, I just don't like turning on the overhead light. I think the lighting looks weird, so I think this looks good enough. But yeah, so we got. I don't know, Eric. How's your day going? I know you've been waiting on me for a while.
Good. I got the window, the shades up, so I got some natural light going on.
Yeah, your lighting
Unlike
is
your
far
cave.
better than mine. Yes, I like the contrast though. So anyway, we got picks against the spread. Let's look at our game-by-game results first. I got that graphic for you guys. This is the picks that we made last Thursday. We went 4-4 or 5-3. We'll look at the records in a second. But the Lakers didn't do us any favors. The Bulls, Cavs, pretty easy picks there. Chat picked the Bucks. Trevin went the Bucks. That went the Mavericks' way. The Suns didn't do us any favors either, man. As I said on that stream, I hate picking Suns games because I always pick it wrong. And I said, normally I go with my gut feeling. My gut feeling says to pick the Clippers, so I'm going to pick the Suns. And it was the Clippers. So, and then the Jazz blew out the Blazers. You know how the Blazers do against good teams. I can't believe that spread was only 6 points. And then the Pistons helped Zach maintain pace with us.
Yeah, and there's this thing called the point spread. So even though the Heat won, they did not win by more than 9. So that's why the correct vote for them was the Lakers. And we do everything against the spread.
Yes, that's why it's called picks against the spread. So anyway, this is our records, updated records. Chat is still maintaining a slim lead. Reese is catching up, man. Reese is on a roll. Remember when he was like 25 games back? He's cut that lead in half to 13. Me and Zach gain a game on Eric and Chat. So right now it's kind of a 4-person race. But I mean, Trevin has a good day today. We got 8 games to pick from. One got canceled, by the way. We got 8 games to pick from. Trevin could kind of bring it back too. Things are kind of bunching up right now, which is cool to see. Everybody was 4-4 or 5-3. Felt like that might be the case because a lot of the picks were the same. But yeah, that's the records for picks against the spread. Let's jump into game number 1. By the way, the bottom bar is not updated, but our records were the same, so it doesn't really matter. First game is going to be Knicks taking on the Lakers. The Knicks are 1.5-point favorites. The Lakers still without Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Eric, do you have any extra injury news?
Yeah, so this one, Kuz, Wesley Matthews, and Marc Gasol and Dennis Schroeder were all game time decisions, and it looks like all 4 of those players are playing.
Okay.
And the Knicks are still without Mitchell Robinson, and their recent pickup, John Henson, is also out for the game. But those are the
I didn't even know they picked him up, man. That flew under my radar. I'm going to roll with the Knicks. The Lakers have been playing better, and they still have one of the best defenses without LeBron and AD. So this game is a harder pick than you might think. But I'm still going to roll with the Knicks here.
I'm also going to take the Knicks.
Alrighty.
Trevin's taking the Knicks.
I feel like this
Zach
one might be a clean sweep.
Knicks.
Reese is taking the Lakers.
So, nope.
Right when I said that, I saw Reese taking Lakers.
Thank you, Smog. He says 9-6 Lakers for chat.
Alrighty, so chat's rolling Lakers as well. That's a little surprising, but Reese and chat going Lakers. Everybody else is going Knicks. Let's jump into game number 2. That is Dallas versus Philadelphia. Philadelphia 4-point favorite. Injury status.
For the Sixers, only George Hill is listed as out. For the Mavericks, Porzingis is out. Kleba is going to play. Play, and Redick is making his debut today as well.
Oh, he hasn't made his debut yet? Interesting. No. I'm going to wait on this one. This one's a tough one. Mavericks have been playing good basketball lately, but without Porzingis, that's definitely a loss. Who knows how Redick plays for them in his debut. You got Westbrook. You got Zach going Mavs. You got Reese going Sixers.
I'm going to go Sixers in this one.
Alrighty. I'm going to take the points and go Mavs.
Okay.
Trevin, Sixers. My voice. What is happening? Excuse me. Trevin going Sixers. And then we'll see if chat can make this a clean split vote. Looks like chat is Sixers. If we could get a vote total on that, that would be useful. But I will put in the Sixers. If you guys could get the vote total. I'll move on to game number 3. We got Orlando taking on San Antonio. San Antonio 7-point favorite.
All right, for San Antonio, not too bad. Just Zhang and Lyles are out. Okay. For the Magic, they have Otto Porter Jr., Gary Harris, and of course their guys that are out for the year, Fultz and Isaac. Okiki is going to play, but he is on a minutes restriction.
All right, I am going to go with the Spurs in this one. They've been struggling lately, but Okiki's kind of becoming their guy on this team. I mean, there's really nobody that is that guy on this team, but he's had some decent performances for them, including a game against us. But with him on a minutes restriction, I'm going to go with the Spurs.
Dang. I hate picking Spurs games for some reason.
I hate picking Magic games, too. It was 11-4 for the Sixers, by the way, on last game.
Yeah, I got that.
Cool.
I'm just going to take the points and go with the Magic.
Alrighty. Smog says 12-3 Spurs.
That was a fast vote.
Yeah, that was extremely fast. We're making sure not to count doubles. Do not vote twice, by the way. It seems like you guys are being pretty good about that, but just make sure you do not vote twice. Trevin is going Spurs, so it looks like Eric might be on an island.
All right.
Would that make this your double down pick?
Maybe.
Because you've had good luck doubling down on island picks.
Yeah, maybe.
Reese, Reese is going with the Magic. He just put it in a sentence. Never mind. He just killed your buzz, man. So Reese and Eric going Magic. Everybody else is going Spurs. This is a lot more variety in terms of picks than it was the first 3 games on Thursday, because the first 3 games were all clean sweeps. So I like this. I like this start better. Game number 4, you got Memphis taking on Chicago. Memphis is a 2.5-point favorite. If you got the injuries for this one.
So Bulls, Garrett Temple is questionable. That's the only injury report for the Bulls. Grizzlies, we got Winslow, Melton, and Jaren Jackson out.
Oh, this is a tough one, man. The Bulls have not played well with Vucevic. The Bulls, I think, have more talent on the floor, but they haven't played well together. I don't know if it's not cohesive or what, but Memphis has continuously played at a level that's greater than the sum of their parts. The Bulls right now have been playing at a level that's less than the sum of their parts. So this one's a very hard one. Zach's going Grizzlies.
I'm going Grizzlies as well.
I'm going to go Bulls. Grizzlies played last night. I don't know if the Bulls did, but I know the Grizzlies played last night, so I'll just roll with Chicago.
Okay.
I think this will be a very close game, though. Chat's going Grizzlies. Waiting on Trevin and Reese.
Trevin's Grizzlies.
Oh, is this going to be an island for me? Nah, Reese. Reese joining me with the Bulls.
You can't vote against Booth.
Hell yeah, that's his guy. So me and Reese going Bulls. Eric, Zach, Trevin, Chat going Grizzlies. So let's move on to game number 5. You got Sacramento taking on New Orleans. New Orleans is a 1.5 point favorite.
So for the Kings, Bagley's still out, but it looks like everyone else is playing. For the Pelicans, they have Lonzo Ball, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Jason Hart all out.
Jason Hart. Are you forgetting his first name?
Yeah, I
I saw you try to think of it there. That's funny. Good old Josh Hart is out.
Josh Hart, yes. Thank you, sorry. Josh.
So New Orleans is 24-29, by the way. The record is not updated. There's your one typo. Hopefully your one typo for this one.
I'm going to go... God, the Pelicans always screw me, but I'm going to take them because I don't think the Kings have a good answer for Zion.
Alrighty. I am also going to go with the Pelicans for that reason. Zach is going Kings. Trevin and Reese are going with the Pelicans. And we'll see what Chat wants to roll with. We haven't had an Island or clean sweep so far. We're already into game number 5. And Chat keeps that streak up because they will go Kings with Zach. The records from today are going to be extremely interesting. There you go with the 5th game of the night. Let's move on to the 6th game of the night. You got Utah going up against Washington. Utah is only a 10.5 point favorite. What are the injuries for this one?
Utah is without Conley and Clarkson, both ruled out of this game. The Wizards really have no injuries other than Beal is probable, so it looks like he's going to end up playing. And Thomas Bryant, of course, is out, I think, for the year. But other than that, it looks like they have their big guys, Bertans and Gafford, available for this one.
Alrighty. I am still going to end up taking the Jazz in this one. The Jazz have covered big spreads, pretty routinely so far this season. Now they have guys out, so that makes it a little bit tougher, but I will still roll with them.
I'm also going to go with the Jazz.
Zach is going Wizards. Reese says he remembers this game from like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I forget how that game goes or went. Trevin is going Wizards.
I want to say I doubled down on the Wizards in a big point spread, and the Jazz blew them out. But I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Oh no, that was the game. That was the game the Jazz didn't they end up losing, or barely won?
No, they lost to the Pelicans. Was the one they ended up losing. I feel like I don't remember. Reese is going with the Wizards. Okay. So it's a clean split on this one.
I think someone's going to have to double check the Jazz one just to verify with the
Yeah,
8-7
we'll
vote.
recount the Jazz one. Good old 8-7 vote. Chat making it interesting. But right now, as it stands, me, Eric, and Chat are going with the Jazz. Our mods, Reese, Zach, and Trevin are going with the Wizards. Let's get a double check on that vote. Let's get a recount on that one. After this, you got 2 more games. You got Golden State taking on Denver, and you got Phoenix taking on Houston. Sam, I don't know if Sam's saying the votes Jazz or if he's trying to vote, but we only take our first 15 votes from chat to determine their pick, which makes it easier. Next season, we will try and implement a polling feature, like a live polling feature.
Just
all right.
Westbrook.
8-7 Jazz. Okay, right. So it is Jazz. Connor corroborates that. Appreciate it, Connor. Let's move on to game number 7. You got Golden State against Denver. This game is being played in San Francisco. Denver is a 4.5-point favorite.
For the Nuggets, Jamal Murray is questionable, and last I saw, they didn't think he was going to play. The Warriors are without... Well, Clay, of course. Wiseman is now expected to be out for the year. Pascal's out, and Oubre is out.
The injuries make this interesting. I am going to go with Denver. They played last night, or played yesterday morning. I'm just going to roll with the Nuggets in this one. This is a hard pick. Oh, there's 2 typos. Golden State is not 34-19. There, you guys got 2 typos today. Don't you feel special? Trevin and Zach are going with the Nuggets. Reese says the team that has Aaron Gordon should just give him an automatic loss for that.
Yeah.
Resist the clean sweep, Eric.
Well, I don't know if that... I don't want to do that and then have chat vote with me.
Nah, just make your pick based on...
Yeah, I know.
You know. Gotta keep it natural.
I have a bad feeling about this.
10-5 Denver for chat.
I'm taking the Nuggets as well.
All right,
Don't
clean
feel good about it, though.
Sweep. Everybody's rolling with the Nuggets. 10-5 for Denver. Chat hasn't really had a runaway vote for any one team, it seems like. So
12-3 Spurs was the...
12-3 Spurs right now. Spurs would be their double down. Let's see about Game 8. You got a 12-point spread for Phoenix going against Houston. Phoenix favored by 12. These teams just played, and Houston kept it close somewhat recently. So this is an interesting spread, an interesting game.
The Suns really have no injuries. They've been relatively healthy all year. Nader is out, but that's their only one listed on the injury report. For the Rockets, they are without Sterling Brown, Daniel House, Eric Gordon, David Nwaba, and Chris Clemens. So a bunch of guards and wings out, but I don't think that affects them too much either. Chat is 12-3 Suns.
All right. So, chat, vote between the Suns and the Spurs on who you want to double down on, because it's a tie. So the first 15 votes between Suns and Spurs will be their double down.
And put DD, just so we know it's not voting for this game instead of...
Yeah, put DD, like Suns DD or Spurs DD. Got a lost Suns already, so this might be their double down. Reese went with the Suns.
Has anyone else voted?
Zach went with Houston. I hate picking Suns games so much. So much.
I think this last time I picked the Rockets and I thought it would be close, and I think I was right. Or was that the game that the Rockets were close and then they blew it at the end? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
I'm gonna take the Rockets in the points. Spurs seem to play down at times.
Suns.
Or Suns. But yeah, I was reading Spurs in the chat.
Yeah, I just got to be the smartass that corrects you, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just stalling right now because I don't.
Suns won the double down, so
I am going to take the Suns. The Rockets have so many players missing. I'm just gonna roll with the Suns. So anyway, that was game number 8. Let's hop into the double downs. Suns is going to be Chat's pick. I'll put that in right now. I don't feel super comfortable with any of these games. Honestly. I don't feel comfortable with any of these. I'm going to double down on the Pelicans.
okay.
Mods, let me know if you want to see any spread, if you forgot or something. Just let me know and I can go to that slide. Trevin's doubling down on the Suns.
Man, I was so tempted to double down on the Rockets and have that be a huge game between Chat and I.
Yeah, that would be entertaining, man. That would be as high stakes as it gets.
I don't like playing those light games because then I'm like, man, why didn't I pick those 5 games that I got right earlier in the day as my double downs?
Yeah, but I feel like there's no obvious
Yeah.
double down pick here. I feel like these spreads were pretty tough today, and I feel like that's why we have such a variety of picks. We had one clean sweep and no islands today, so.
Zach's taking the Grizzlies as his double down.
Alrighty. By the way, if you're new and don't know what we mean by islands, islands is where 5 people pick one team and then one person picks the other team. They're alone on an island.
I'm taking the Magic, screw it. That's my double down.
The Magic?
Reese, join me.
I wasn't expecting you to go there with that. I was going to say, if you were going to be bold, I figured you were going to go Rockets, and then you go Magic. Okay. Interesting. And then Reese's pick is still... We're still waiting on it. Alright, Reese says, F it. He'll go Magic with you. He'll tie his anchor to that sinking ship. There you go.
Wait, so Trevin's saying he didn't double down on the Suns.
You said Suns, but let me know. Okay, he said Sixers. He wants to double down on the Sixers. Interesting. Yeah, okay. He wants to double down on the Sixers, Suns. I guess. Alrighty.
I'm not the Magic fan. Reese is a Magic fan. I just like taking underdogs. And they've come through recently for me, so.
Yep. Alrighty. Well, there's the double downs. I had to the Mavericks game just tipped off. I had to check the score to make sure Trevin wasn't pulling some cheap stuff, but it was an ESPN game, so it literally just tipped off.
Yeah.
So there we go. There is the double downs for today. Good luck to everybody involved. And let's preview the Celtics against the Blazers that's coming up tomorrow night. I mean, let's try and preview it at least, Eric, because at this point, all the talking points are the exact same. I assume. Okay, what's the start? What's been their starting lineup lately? Do you know off the top of your head? I can look it up. I'll pull up their box score yesterday. Yesterday against the Nuggets, they started Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams III. If they should 1,000% trap the Blazers. They have the personnel to do so. Jason Tatum is their starting 4, obviously extremely mobile 4, you know. And then Robert Williams is an extremely mobile 5-man. He played 27 minutes. So I mean, off the bench, Tristan Thompson's a pretty mobile big. They have Grant Williams played 20 minutes yesterday. He's pretty mobile. They have the mobile big men to go out there and trap Dame. And that is 1,000% what I'm expecting tomorrow. We'll see how we respond to it.
And Grant had some success guarding Jokic yesterday, so against our bigs. Maybe not. It's not a good matchup for him for Cantor on the boards, but Nurkic is kind of a similar style to Jokic, just not as good or whatever. But so he will probably spend a lot of time guarding Nurkic in that game. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, if I'm any team, really, I'd trap the Blazers until they prove otherwise. I don't see why you wouldn't. I don't know if that's really Brad Stevens' style, so we might get lucky in that one. But they've been a team that we have a tough time with Tatum, and we have a tough time with Brown when he plays. Those guys, we just typically don't match up well in the past, so I'm interested to see how we match up with those guys.
Granted, we now got Robert Covington to put up against Jason Tatum. Obviously, he's a better team defender than he is one-on-one, but I think he's a good one-on-one defender. Obviously, a better one-on-one defender than Melo, who we had at the 4 last year. So, and then Norman Powell's going to get the assignment on Jaylen Brown. Honestly, that's not terrible. Jaylen Brown's, a wing, like a shooting guard, small forward type, 6'6". It's not like he's going to dominate Norman Powell with size, I feel like. So those two forwards, on their two forwards, that's the matchup to watch, I guess. Dame against the trap, watching that. I'm watching the forward battles, and I'm curious as to how we defend the pick and roll, because you can't really drop on Kemba, you can't really drop on Tatum, you can't drop on Brown. Robert Williams is a good lob target if you give him a head of steam. So this is not the team to play drop scheme against, but that is very likely what we're going to come out in.
Yeah, most likely that's what we do, right? And I guess Smart, you can kind of get away with it, but he doesn't handle the ball in that way a lot when Kemba's in the game. So, I would just try to play it as straight up as possible and try to fight through the picks, try to hedge those screens, show with the big to try and recover whoever's guarding him, because I feel like this is a team where our size doesn't really matter to me in the backcourt unless you're switching a lot. So everyone's like, oh, Dame and CJ can't coexist in this on a title contender. But, like, I mean, they're matched up against Kemba and Smart. Those guys aren't going to abuse them strictly because of their size. So I want them to play a defense that's aggressive, but also not just like auto switching and getting mismatches all over the court. Because if it's switching from Kemba to Tatum or Brown, that's when you start to get in trouble.
Yep, I agree with that. Marcus Smart shouldn't be taken lightly either. In 6 games during the month of April, he is shooting 44% from the three-point line. He's a bit of a streaky shooter. He'll have stretches where he's on fire, and he'll have stretches where he's very bad from the three-point line. He's gotten better as his career has progressed, though. So with the way he's shooting coming into this game, you cannot give him open shots. I feel like he's going to at least hit a couple threes against us tomorrow. I just feel like this game is going to, like, what's going to happen in this game? We're going to come out running drop scheme. They're going to exploit it to the fullest. We probably won't adjust. Nurkic might get in foul trouble because he's dealing with Jason Tatum running straight at him, that type of thing. And he's having to battle with Robert Williams, which is a really good energy big. And then Dame on the other end is going to get trapped, and we're going to struggle to deal with that. And it's just going to be the recipe that we've seen against good teams lately. This team, this Celtics team, you know, you look at them 28 and 26. They have had a bunch of bad luck against good teams in clutch situations. They're something like 12 and 20 in clutch situations, something like that, right? So they are much better than their record indicates. They just beat the Denver Nuggets by 18 points when the Nuggets had an 8-game winning streak. This is a good team. It's a well-coached team, and this is a team we do not match up well with. Simply because they have the personnel to trap and they have the personnel to exploit drop scheme. So it'll be interesting if we come out running drop scheme all game long and don't do anything to adjust to the trap. We're likely going to lose this game by 15 to 20 points. And I will be ranting a little bit on the postgame show. That is sadly what I'm kind of expecting to happen.
Yeah, and we can't trap because remember during the bubble we tried trapping them and Dame fell over and they got an open three, so we can't try that. So that's out of the game plan, right?
Yeah, you know, we gave up one open three once when we trapped them once. So yeah, we got to run drop scheme no matter how many open threes they hit against it. That's Stotts' attitude, man. It's a scheme problem when he's trapping and they make an open three, but they could make 20 open threes when we drop, and he'll just say, "Well, we just got to give more effort," you know. So that's just the way it goes with him.
And for those that think I'm joking, that was his actual answer as to why they couldn't trap more in the last game against the Celtics. And if you remember in that game, they auto-switched a lot, and Dame got it matched up on Tatum several plays down the stretch after we made a big comeback, and it was pretty much game over there. But like Belgian says, stop talking about the defense. You already know what Stotts is going to do. So yeah, that's the frustrating part is like, we'll sit here and say, like, they can't do this against this team. Like, I remember a few weeks ago you saying that the day of a game against the Suns, you were sitting here saying, do not play drop coverage against this team. And what do? We come out and drop coverage and get absolutely blitzed. And and it's just frustrating as a fan to know that, like there's obvious things that they could at least try to fix it, but they're not even like trying. They just are going to go down doing whatever it is they do.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You know, in the past I've said, this is a team you can't run drop scheme on. Hopefully Stotts doesn't do it. I'm past the point of hopefully Stotts doesn't do it. He's going to run drop scheme.
Yeah.
He's going to run. I will be shocked if he doesn't, because that's all he wants to do. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it and like make it, paint it as a picture that's better than it is. Like, that's what we're going to come out and do against this team. And hopefully Brad Stevens doesn't trap us, okay? Because that's like the one thing that's up in there. Maybe Brad Stevens doesn't trap us, so maybe we're able to have some offensive success. But I mean, you can put Marcus Smart on one of Dame and CJ, and you can put Jaylen Brown on the other. So even if they don't trap us, if we're getting stuck playing one-on-one against those guys, those are two of the best one-on-one defenders in the league. Marcus Smart's one of the best guard defenders in the league by far, and then Jaylen Brown has size, and he's a good perimeter defender, and Jason Tatum can guard those guys as well. Jason Tatum's a good one-on-one defender. Like, even if they don't trap us, if we just play out of isolation, we're going to struggle to get good shots because of the type of defenders they have. This is the type of team where you got to come out with a good defensive game plan. Like, just, it's not going to happen, but, you know, if we had a good coach, you come out with a good defensive game plan where you throw some traps, you throw some hedges in, and you just see how they respond. And then maybe against the bench, depending on who they have in the game, maybe you drop on like I don't know if they play a Romeo Langford or whatever. I don't know. But you come out with an aggressive point of attack defense. You don't give them the shots that we're going to give them tomorrow, right? And then you adapt according to how the game progresses. You adapt defensively. Offensively, you utilize ball movement. You move the ball. You move cutters so that you're not playing into their strength, which is defending guys one-on-one. That's literally all you need to do going into the game in terms of a game plan, right? But the problem is we don't do that, and that's what infuriates me. We're last in the league in assists. We're last in the league in ball movement. We don't have player movement. And then defensively, we were going to come out and drop, you know what I mean? And it's just, I can sit here and say how ridiculous it is, but this NBA coaching staff is going to do it, and we all see it coming because we've seen this story before, and I've been on a pregame show before saying, this is what they should do, but they're not going to. They're going to come out and run drop, and you can't run drop, and then we come out and run drop, and we get crushed. This is just... I mean, maybe Dame is able to hit a bunch of crazy shots, and CJ hits a bunch of crazy shots, and we're in this game, but that's what it's going to take if we come out with the schemes and the style of play that I expect us to come out with.
Well, Tori, you said, Smart, you expect to be on either Dame or CJ, and Brown to be on the other one, right? So if they're starting Kemba, who's Kemba guarding? Powell then? So that should be a situation where we should absolutely try to take advantage of that mismatch instead of, running pick and roll with Dame, and maybe try to do some stuff with Powell to get him involved, or Powell can post up a little bit too. He hasn't done that since he got here, but I would love to just keep going to Powell if they're going to put Walker on him and make him switch, and then whoever Kemba switches off or comes out of the game, then you go you start going to CJ if Kemba moves to him or whatever. So what I would do if I was Brad Stevens, though? I'd put Kemba on Rocco. Yeah, I mean that's probably what's going to happen.
On Powell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do if I was him. If you're able to put Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown on CJ, Dame, and Norm, I mean, ooh, that's rough.
Yep. And then, Rocco, we haven't really seen a post-up game out of him. It kind of reminds me of the series when the Suns put Steve Nash on Batum, and Batum couldn't even score on him in the post. And it was kind of sad, but they probably will put him on Rocco, but I just wish, once again, we had a way to design some cuts or something to take advantage of that size mismatch then. Yeah. Instead of just planting him in the corner and letting Kemba get away with guarding him.
Yeah, because if he's able to catch the ball, 3 feet from the rim, that should be a bucket, But it's like the way our offense is, if there's a size advantage for us, the only way we try and exploit it is by having a guy post up 15 feet away from the rim, giving him the ball, and then hoping he can back that guy under the hoop. And then a double comes, and then we're kind of lost. Instead of running some sort of action where you have that guy moving, you have that guy cutting, and maybe getting a little bit of space going towards the rim with, nobody underneath the rim. And then you can, because it's just like if Rocco back cuts and Kemba's guarding him, he doesn't even necessarily have to beat Kemba. He has to just get behind him and you just throw it over Kemba. And he runs into the pass towards the hoop, layup. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that difficult. Mm-hmm. But I could see them putting Kemba on Rocco and Rocco just sitting on the three-point line, not moving because of the way our offense is.
And that's something that, for those that don't pay attention to that kind of stuff and just normally watch the game and are watching the ball, that's something I'd challenge you guys to watch, is how we take advantage of Kemba on defense. Mm-hmm. And if we're doing like Tori just said, and planting Rocco in the corner and just allowing Kemba to just stand there on Rocco and he can contest the three, that's not hard defense. So if you're watching that during the game and the first few minutes of this game we're doing stuff like that, I think it's going to be a long night for us, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same story that played out against the Heat last night. It's the same story that played out against the Jazz. It's just we've seen it for years, and I don't know, we're getting worse at it. We're getting, like, the playbook on how to beat us has been out, and we're getting worse at dealing with it, not better. That's what's crazy about it. I don't know how we're getting worse at dealing with the trap. I don't know how we're getting, we're running more drop scheme than ever lately, I feel like. I don't know, man.
Well, I feel like Cantor, when he's in the game, is dropping even further. Like, he's like near the restricted area most of the time, like under the basket. And he like purposely goes back to that spot whenever his guy picks. And so I don't get it, but I mean, I could say that all the time about everything that's happening right now with this team. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see how it plays out. After the Celtics game, the Blazers then play the Spurs. That'll be an interesting game. The Spurs have been struggling lately. I don't know the schedule after that, but yeah, I mean, like, what else could we say? Like, I don't even know what else we can say hypothetically to preview this game.
I think the whole dynamic of playing against good teams and stuff. I think actually am excited that we're playing so many good teams in this last stretch of the season because um, at each game, if these same things continue to happen, it's going to mount the pressure more and more on them. So it's, I mean, it's going to be a point where, so Apples was asking earlier if we got a new coach, would they be playoff eligible? And there's no way a playoff team's going to fire their coach like with less than 20 games left in the season. I mean, I would be absolutely shocked if that happened. But yeah, technically, a coach could be eligible at any point. We could bring in a coach to the bench to be an assistant too at any point as well. So yeah, I don't see that happening. But yeah, it's I just want this to either change and them to try something, or which we know is not going to happen, or just for it to end very horribly. Not for the players. Like I still want them to win. I still want them to try and all that stuff. But like I want it to be obvious that it's Stotts not adjusting. And his answers, like last night in the press conference, and the game before that. Or not the game before that, but on Thursday night. Those answers are just, I mean, I don't know how people can watch that and not think that this guy is just like gonna go down with his system and is not trying harder to fix things. And I just like that it's becoming more apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. Alexander has a question. He says, do you guys think Stotts says to stay in the corner and don't run? Stotts is bad, but he thinks our players are grown and should be able to know what to do on the court. Well, when you have a system that seems primarily freelance oriented and you don't emphasize certain things such as, diving from the corner, like Derrick Jones Jr. wasn't standing in the corner to start the season. He was cutting baseline. But now the dude just sits in the corner and shoots threes. I don't think that's a Derrick Jones Jr. thing. It seems like every player we get that we bring in here, even if they're a good cutter, they go from, cutting right when they get here, cutting baseline, to just sitting in the corner. No matter if they're a high-flying guy who would dunk everything if he catches it around the block and isn't a good three-point shooter, he still ends up sitting in the corner. But yeah. I mean, but like a lot of our offense is just isolation. So if somebody's isolating up top, you're not going to like cut underneath him into the paint and maybe ruin his drive. You know what I mean? Like, the problem is our offense is so isolation and pick and roll oriented that guys almost have to just sit in the corner. I don't know. It's just entirely a system flaw. It's a system flaw. Do you think like the Warriors, when they were coached under Steve Kerr, were going out there and just, let's just run around like crazy and things will work? No, they were coached into that. Before Steve Kerr got there, they were extremely stagnant. And then Steve Kerr gets there, all of a sudden they start moving a ton.
I saw that argument today that Curry's just smarter running off ball than Dame could ever be, so that's why it works for him, is that he knows when to curl off picks and stuff like that.
Which is just an absolute terrible argument.
Let me ask a question back to that. If the offense is not doing what Stotts wants, why would he not like make some sort of screen to the basket or a curl or a like you mentioned, a dive to the basket? Why wouldn't he like design more of those into the offense if the free flowing spontaneity offense isn't working right or to his what he's demanding. And the answer to that is he wants them to be in the corner. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like that. If he was telling them to cut most of the situations, I think they would cut. And I mean, it's not just like a couple people. It's basically every single wing that's ever come in here under Stotts has basically become a corner spot up shooter and rarely cuts. We saw Layman be one of the few that kind of counteracted that a little bit, and he actually got his time cut shorter than I thought it should have been here because apparently Stotts had an issue with some of the things he was doing and didn't really like playing him, but kind of had to during that season. So we ran an out of bounds play yesterday where we passed it into, I believe, Rocco, and it was Powell who threw it to Rocco. And then Dame came across and set a pick for Powell off the inbounds. And both guys went with Dame because they were giving him a ton of attention. And Powell curls around the pick from Dame. And Rocco throws it to him, and that's when he had that big two-handed dunk wide open down the middle of the key.
Yep.
And did we see anything like that the rest of the game? Like any kind of like that kind of stuff works.
That's a set play. Yeah.
When how many set plays have we seen and they work and then we don't see them again? Like you could just early in the season we had a play where Dame just ran down the middle of the key, curled around Nurkic, and ran back up to the 3-point line and was wide open and got a three. Haven't seen that since. It's weird to me how we can see when they do run some sort of structured offense, like in the game against Philly without Dame and stuff like that. It works, and we just chalk it up to, the spontaneity offense doesn't work at all. It doesn't make sense to me.
I just to simply explain it. We don't have enough sets that utilize productive movement. You know, a lot of our sets you just run around the 3-point line and then somebody do something with the ball. The 3-man weave, and that type of thing. So we don't have a good variety of sets. We don't have very productive sets at generating movement and potentially open threes for guys like Damon CJ or, open lay-ins like the Norm Dunk, which was a good set and good movement, but we rarely see that type of stuff, right? So the sets are a problem, but then our freelance offense, some offenses, their freelance offense is motion-based. The Warriors' freelance offense under Kerr has always been motion-based. Our freelance offense is isolation and pick-and-roll based. That's a difference, too, with just the freelance offense. You can run a freelance offense and have it be a motion-based offense. But, I mean, here it's isolation and pick-and-roll. You look at Kent Bazemore and the difference with how he played here. Sitting in the corner constantly, but then, a lot of one-on-one and pick and roll, and that was it, compared to Golden State, where he moves off ball a lot. He swings the ball fast. He doesn't really look to just go one-on-one or do something all the time with the ball. He plays into the motion offense. There's a difference, and you can see it with a guy like that who played here and is now playing in Golden State. So the easiest way to explain it, our sets aren't good, and our freelance offense is pick and roll and isolation based instead of motion based.
And people say, like, all the time, like, well, Dame wouldn't be as effective if he was off ball or whatever. But you saw last night, they were absolutely selling out on Dame. 2-3 guys almost every play. Dame tried to run a pick and roll. Sometimes they didn't even need a pick and roll, and they had 2 guys run at him. They were taking him out of the game. And if you do that and you run that simple action with him off ball to set a screen, those 2 guys are more likely than not going to focus on Dame in that situation because they're not thinking that Dame is setting someone else up. They think we're setting up a play for Dame. So they're going to always overreact to whatever Dame's doing, and that should free up someone else. And if Dame isn't the one with the ball, that person doesn't have a double team they have to try to throw to get it to Powell. Because if Dame had the ball and we ran that action for Powell off ball, but Dame's getting double teamed, he probably can't make that pass because he's got to throw it between 2 guys and he doesn't have an angle to get it there. So this is just a situation where you don't even have to do it a lot. Just throughout the game, runs several plays like that with Dame off ball, and it takes a second to locate him. Then sometimes you don't know if he's dribbling the ball up the court, but when you're getting doubled with Dame, every time he dribbles the ball up the court and goes to the same spot, runs the pick and roll in the general area the same way. Like that's just really dumb in my opinion, and I don't understand why in a night like last night where we score less than 100 points, we just continue to run that into the ground until it. I mean, like, what are we waiting for to show it doesn't work? Like, it's not just going to magically work like the 30th time we do it when the first 29 times we're really struggling with it. It's just, like Alexander says, it's predictable. And both our offense and defense are predictable, and that's why it gets shut down in the playoffs.
Yep. So, I mean, that's the big problem facing our offense. The third thing that I'd add on to the kind of the simple way to explain is we don't know how to deal with the trap. Yeah, it's not good. And those are the three reasons why our offense struggles in the playoffs. Compared to you can get away with it in the regular season much more than you can in the playoffs. But then the defense, we all know the deal with that. My goodness. So, I mean, we'll get to see it play out likely tomorrow against the Celtics. We'll see if we can maybe be competitive. It would be an accomplishment if we didn't have to throw in the end of the bench guys at the end of the game because we're down so much, like if we kept it within 8, and throughout, the fourth quarter, if it was 8 to 10 points, that would be an accomplishment compared to the past 5 games that we've played a good, healthy team. I know we only lost to Miami by 9, but we put in CJ Ellaby and Harry Giles with 5 minutes left because we were down 19. Mm-hmm. So it's we haven't been competitive against good teams. It's very simple. I mean, what are you laughing at?
I actually, because the Twitter post or whatever for the show last night, I put something like Blazers get blasted by another good team or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I actually had someone tell me, they only lost by 9. What are you talking about? It was a close game. I was like, oh, are you kidding me?
They were down 19 with 4 or 5 minutes left, and CJ Ellaby and Harry Giles hit some shots to bring it to 9. Bruh, it's not we were down 5, and then we had to foul them a couple times to try and get back into the game. In the final 30 seconds, they made all their free throws and won by 9. That's two completely different things. Anybody that says that is just trying to paint a pretty picture, and it's just we were down 19 with 5 minutes left. That's crazy. Yeah. But do you guys think Nurkic talked to Dame about what he sees? I mean, I'm sure they talk about basketball all the time. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna speculate on what they talk about behind closed doors. I don't really know what Nurkic and Dame talk about. I mean, I don't know. This team's in a weird state, and it's kind of hard to fully put the finger on it because these have been problems, but it feels a little different this year. I don't know if it's because of the way Stotts is talking to the media, or... Well, remember last year, the media didn't ask him these types of questions, Eric. Mm-hmm. Jason Quick, Dwight James, they asked him softballs too. This year, Jason Quick and Dwight James primarily are asking him much harder and legitimate questions.
There were a few by Dwight, and that's when he started getting blasted by the pro Stotts crowd every time he asked a tough question. But it's nice that it seems like it's more of a common thing this year out of most of them.
Maybe it's because he realizes, there's a lot of people out there that want me to ask legitimate questions and hard-hitting questions.
I think it's funny that I think this is very telling too. That AJ, it wasn't one of the last 2 games, but it was either the Clippers or the Utah game. She asked a great question, but she prefaced it by saying, not to keep harping on this, I'm sorry to keep bringing it up, but when are you going to show some intensity on defense or something like that? It's it's funny that she has to kind of soften it before saying it. I wish she would just be okay, I asked you this 10 games ago and you said it would improve from here and it hasn't gotten any better. What are you doing in practice to keep on, to make sure this is not something that's going to plague you for the rest of the season into the playoffs? And I would keep asking it until he gives you an answer every single game, in my opinion. But she's actually asked a lot of good questions. whereas a lot of those reporters have just asked like the fluff and Aaron Fentress type questions that just tease thoughts up for an easy answer without even like him having to explain really what he's doing, because he doesn't do a good job of explaining it. And I like that they're asking these questions and putting him on the spot, and I like that he's not responding to them well, because that just shows that he isn't really doing much. And I think a lot of people that normally wouldn't criticize him have no real explanation for why he's answering the questions like that.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Is that why it feels different, or do you think it's like beyond that?
Well, I think it's because you mentioned this last night, but when you're a player's coach or everyone considers you a player's coach, but I mean, how many games this year have we heard that the other team outworked us or had more aggression or had more effort and stuff like that? Even the people who defend you as a coach or think that coaching has very little impact on a game, I think recognize that effort is something like getting your team prepared and motivated and stuff is one of the few jobs that a coach has, even if you don't think he does much to change the outcome of games. So when you see the team not giving any effort on defense, despite the coach saying he's harping on it all the time and that it will be better after this part of the season, and you still don't see them giving effort on that end of the floor, I think that's when people start to turn a little bit. But honestly, I saw a bunch of things today blaming CJ and for all our problems, and that Stotts can't do anything as long as Dame and CJ is it. Our boy Danny Meringue had the tweet that the Blazers will never be title contenders as long as Dame and CJ are both on this roster.
Yeah, which is just absolutely silly to me. But, that's the dude just says a bunch of silly stuff, and it's never really grounded in any sort of logic with him, it seems like. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you watch this team and think this is a well-coached team and it's a CJ problem, man. But, it was, we're missing CJ, and now it's, CJ's the problem. So if CJ gets hurt, it's, we're missing CJ, that's why we suck. And then if CJ comes back and we still suck, it's CJ being back is why we suck. And I ranted about it on the post-game show last night. People flip-flop back and forth and have no sort of consistency, because the only thing they want to consistently do is support Stotts and make any sort of excuse for him, right? Whereas us, we just try and call it like we see it. And we have seen things this way for years. And it still applies. We haven't had to flip-flop once, Eric, because if Stotts all of a sudden started coming out and trapping and beating the trap and using ball movement, people might say, you guys flip-flopped. You guys are talking about Stotts nice now. Well, the whole reason why we don't like Stotts is because he doesn't do those things. So if he started doing those things, yes, our tune would change. That would be 1,000% consistent, because we're saying we need to do those things. And the fact that we aren't is why Stotts is a bad coach. It's pretty simple, but all these people try and come up with a bunch of crazy random narratives. I mean, how many times have you heard, Dame likes shooting contested shots and passing doesn't mean anything and yada yada yada. Yeah, he would hate if he didn't isolate as much as he does, and all sorts of just random stuff that people just throw at the wall to try and defend him. And it doesn't, there's no logical process there. There's no you cannot follow the logic from one point to the next with certain people, because they're just constantly all over the place. So, I mean, Dan Meringue has always been the CJ's the problem, but then when we had CJ out, it was, CJ's out, what do you expect? So that's just a contradiction. CJ. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, that guy doesn't make any sense. At least there's other people in media that have the balls to, admit that they were, not necessarily admit that they were wrong, but be a little bit harder on Terry Stotts. Chad Doing is one of those guys that seems to be finally questioning the coach after all this time, after insulting us, after saying, all sorts of those random points to defend Terry. Finally, it seems like he's starting to question it. Other people are starting to question it that I didn't think would. So, I don't know. It's just like, with some people, Terry could literally not show up for work and they defend it at this point. And Meringue's one of those guys. Terry could not show up for work and be like, well, Terry knows there's nothing he can do because his roster sucks, so I don't blame him for not showing up.
Yeah. And so going back to the whole Warriors thing, right? Because this is what I heard all day, too, is Blazers need 2 Hall of Famers, or every team that's won a championship lately has had at least 2 Hall of Famers on their roster. And so I pointed out that the Blazers technically do have 2 Hall of Famers on their roster, but that wasn't good enough. So then it's like, you know what I mean, all-star in their prime and all-NBA type players, right? So you get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Golden State, okay, Steph Curry wasn't MVP yet. Klay Thompson had not been an all-star yet. Draymond Green played 20 minutes off the bench, was not really a major part of their team the prior years. So a new coach comes in, Steve Kerr, and they have the best record in the NBA. And then all of a sudden, a guy like Klay Thompson is an all-star, Draymond Green is an all-star because of record and team success. So if the Blazers this year, if CJ doesn't get hurt and like we're up near the top 3 spots in the standings and we had a good coach and we were winning games a lot more than we were, CJ would be an all-star by now. And that's the problem. And people just say, well, he's not an all-star. Olshey's never paired him with an all-star. But like, we don't have that because we don't get a chance. We're lucky. Like some of those years with Dame, we're lucky to even get him as an all-star. Like I think at least once he got the Devin Booker treatment where, Devin Booker technically has never been voted to an all-star game. He's got in twice because of an injury replacement, right? But there's no way you would say the Phoenix Suns don't have 2 all-stars or whatever. Even 2 years ago, people thought Devin Booker was like all-star quality. There's just too many good guards in the West.
Exactly.
But then when it comes to our team, it's like, oh, Olshey can't put talent around him. CJ sucks and he'll never be an all-star. But like he should have traded him for Jimmy Butler or whatever. And like not even putting the context of how do you know? I mean, Olshey didn't try to trade CJ for those guys like Kawhi Leonard. Like we don't know if those offers were on the table. And
yeah, I mean, if CJ sucks so much, why do you think teams are just going to trade all NBA players for him?
Exactly, and that's the point I will make. And then I challenge people, anyone who's saying the whole Dame and CJ can't coexist, I challenge you guys to go back and scrub their old tweets for them saying that our record is incredible considering we're missing our second best player and all that. And anyone who's saying that Gary Trent's better than CJ, I challenge you to go find that as well. Let's use their own words against them in these situations, because I don't feel they're being fair. And yes, you can argue that Olshey probably has wanted to keep Dame and CJ together. That's fine. But like, a lot of these same people are the same people who are saying Stotts needs to be the coach because Dame wants him to be coach, right? So if that's also your argument that Dame likes Stotts, Dame is like, that's one of his best friends is CJ. So like, he's not going to want to trade him either. He wants him to be a part of this team. He wants him to be part of this success. And I don't think we give CJ enough credit too for being loyal to the franchise. He could have obviously gone elsewhere too, or demanded a trade at some point. But just like Dame, he's wanted to make things work here, and just all these things. And I don't buy for a second that their size will prevent them from ever doing anything if we have the right pieces around them in the front court.
I mean, the whole size thing is just ridiculous because the NBA is not a league that's like not anywhere near as much of a low post league as it was for centers, right? I mean, we're talking about a 2-guard. And CJ's a little undersized, but it's not like he has a negative wingspan compared to height. He's like 6'3", 6'3.5", but it's like the NBA is going a little smaller anyways. And what CJ doesn't get exploited for like a slight lack of size other than when he maybe goes up against Klay Thompson and Klay Thompson like posts up and shoots over him. That's like the only scenario I can think of. Otherwise, like CJ going up against, I don't know, who's the Lakers starting two? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Like CJ's lack of size is what's going to hurt us there? Or I don't know, let's think of the Clippers. The Clippers starting two is like Paul George. Okay, I guess, but most twos in the NBA don't have Paul George's size. He's like 6'8", 6'9". You know what I mean? Honestly, you can just put CJ on Nick Batum, and Nick Batum ain't gonna punish him because Nick Batum's like their starting three, or maybe he's there. You consider them starting two. Basically, they're starting Batum and Pat Beverly. So you could put Dame on Pat Beverly. You could put CJ on Batum. We know Batum is not going to punish.
I don't think they've been starting Batum lately.
Well, who they've been starting then?
They Marcus Morris and Zubac.
Yeah, I mean, in that situation though, most shooting guards, not just CJ, is undersized compared to Paul George. He's like 6'9". He's a forward that's skilled enough to play guard. You know, so that's kind of an outlier. You look at Donovan Mitchell is like 6'3". He has a long wingspan, but he's 6'3". So he's CJ's height. You look at the Suns. I mean, Devin Booker maybe can shoot over CJ a little bit easier, but
they do
I think
post him up sometimes.
Yeah, I think with that, it's more of a scheme thing where he just loves going up against drop scheme, and we drop against him, and that's the issue when we guard Devin Booker.
And you could put CJ on Mikal Bridges. And much like we talked about with Kemba going on Rocco or whatever, and that won't hurt us too much. So
exactly.
Mikel's not going to post him up or do a bunch of things. So
yep. And then who's the Nuggets starting to now that they traded Gary Harris?
I know they were starting Monte Morris with Jamal Murray for a while.
Yeah, Jamal Murray's 6'4".
He's
I
like
don't know what they
did yesterday, but
yeah,
Will Barton,
they started Compazzo, and yeah, I mean, like, you know what I mean. They don't got a guy who's going to exploit CJ for a lack of size. As far as Dame goes, he's like average size for a point guard. He's like 6'2" ish without shoes. That's pretty average. He has a long wingspan too. So like size-wise, he's average size for a point guard. People want to say two undersized guards. Well, it's like Dame's average size for a point guard. CJ is slightly undersized, but it's not like it's something that gets exploited. So the whole undersized backcourt thing, yada yada, is so overplayed, and people don't think it out truly. Like their heights aren't what crush us. Now,
and honestly, against Klay, for example, like, I almost want him posting up instead of shooting threes.
And shooting long twos, yeah.
He's like a 45% shooter, so I'd rather him, even if he's making a good percentage of them, I'd rather their offense, not this year, obviously. It's not the same the last 2 years, but like when he was playing, like, if they're getting a post up too and everyone's just standing around watching Klay shoot over CJ, I'd take that offense all the time, even if he's making a good percentage of them, because it takes away from them. They were one of the greatest three-point shooting teams of all time, and that takes away a lot of three-point attempts.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I'll make this argument too. CJ and Dame both have the ability to be average defenders. They both have the potential to be average defenders. I thought Dame last season was pretty average. This year he's been definitely bad.
2 years ago, Dame was actually
maybe it was 2 years
average,
ago.
And then the last 2 years, it's kind of regressed back since Vanderpool left. Yeah.
But like CJ, I'd say this year CJ has been an average defender, which is the first time in his career he's been an average defender. But I've watched CJ when he's on the court looking for the same mistakes that he's made all throughout his career, and he's not making them like that. And he has the foot speed to stay in front of a lot of guys. I mean, he's one of the best shot-blocking guards in the league, you know what I mean? He's been an average defender this year. Dame, we've seen him be an average defender a couple years ago. Both of them have the potential to be average defenders, and the size thing isn't exploited like people want to make it seem. So my whole question is, why can't they coexist? You know what I mean? Yes, we might need to add, a third all-star caliber player. Sure. But the whole notion that they can't exist in the backcourt is just extremely flawed, because defensively, I think it's far, far overblown. As far as the offensive end, they step up for each other when each other's struggling. They both make plays. They both pass. They both can play off the ball. They both can play on the ball. You get a good coach with emotion offense, and I think they actually, complement each other extremely well offensively. A lot of people say, oh, they're too similar, as somehow that's a negative, but it's like, you wouldn't want two Damian Lillards? You know what I mean? Of course you would. It doesn't make any sort of sense. Oh, they detract from each other because they both are too similar. Instead, we need a forward who plays a lot like CJ and demands the ball like CJ, but somehow that's a better complement offensively. I don't understand that. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Nobody that's ever made that point has really explained it to me as to how they don't complement each other offensively. If we ran an offense like Steve Kerr has in Golden State, bro, I mean, we'd be unstoppable. We'd be unstoppable offensively. We are sixth, running maybe the worst offensive system in the league. It's just isolation and one-on-one. Last in the league in assists. And we're still ranked sixth? Man, just imagine if we ran a real offense. I don't see how those two guys don't complement each other in the backcourt. I think that whole notion that they can't coexist and they're a terrible fit for each other is just ridiculous, and it's just something that people toss out there in order to not actually take a look at the way the team is playing and the way the team is coached. Instead, it's easy to just say, CJ's the problem. We should have traded him a while ago, but Olshey didn't, so it's Olshey's fault too. Nothing Stotts can do. A lot of people want to have that opinion.
And Alexander Ryder says nearly every contender has at least one good defender at the 1 or 2 spot. But so I'll put it this way. Then Reese follows it up by saying Conley and Mitchell are both short. So what is it that makes Conley and Mitchell better defenders than Dame and CJ? They're not more athletic. They're not. I mean, Mitchell has long arms, but that's not necessarily what makes him a good defender. So like Patrick Beverly, Marcus Smart, those guys just have it's like an attitude. It's a way of playing. And that's why I hate the conservative defense. I think that it does such a disservice to these two guys, because if you had an aggressive defense, I just think they would look so much better, because you'd be forcing turnovers and you would be a more physical team, all that kind of stuff. So, I wish that we had a new coach that had a defensive philosophy. You don't think if Tom Thibodeau came in here, I'm not saying I want him as coach, but if he came in here, you'd think that Dame and CJ would still be slacking off on defense and be thought of as bad defenders. That guy would teach them how to be good defenders, in my opinion. So I just think people always say oh, you need length and athleticism and all this kind of stuff, but most of the best defenders in the league aren't necessarily because they're super athletic or whatever. You have good defenders that are like that. Like an Aaron Gordon, for example, is a good defender because he's super athletic. It's not because he's great at defense. He's just quick and athletic enough to stay in front of most people and contest shots at the rim with his shot or his jumping ability. But you pair that with say I don't know, Jonathan Isaac when he's healthy is super long and athletic. But he's also smart defensively too. So it is a little bit basketball IQ as well. But I don't know, if you put as much focus like we do with Dame and CJ on the offensive end and turned a lot of that to the defensive end, I don't think that those guys are incapable of becoming at least average on the defensive end and more than capable.
Yeah, and the whole thing oh, no organization has won without a good backcourt guard defender, yada, yada. It's I don't buy into that. I don't know. Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? It's you got to tell me why it can't be done. If Dame and CJ have the ability to be average defenders, if they're both average defenders and we have a good defensive coach and good defensive players around that, why can't we win a championship? We could still be a top 10 defense, and offensively we should be top 3. That's hypothetically good enough to contend for a championship. So why can't it be done? Don't say, oh, well, it hasn't been done, so it can't. Why can't it? That's what I want to know.
And also, I mean, the same stats reporters that bring up, well, he has coached a good defense in the past. That was with Dame and CJ on the roster, where we were 8th in defense, and the next year we were 16th or whatever. And that was without Wes Matthews and Nick Batum and all those guys. That was with a roster that, I mean, it was Dame and CJ. Those guys weren't hurt that year; they were both playing, and we were eighth in defense. So they like to bring that up when it comes to stats, but then when it comes to Dame and CJ playing together, it'll never work out because Yep.
It's just extreme inconsistency. So anyway, I'm down to wrap up the stream. We're an hour and 15 minutes in.
Just, Brian kept asking a question about Zach Collins. I just want to get to that real quick.
Okay.
So he's saying that it's coming up on 5 months at the end of this month from his second surgery. The recovery time is 4 to 6 months on that one. So he's wondering if he's going to be back or anything. I think there's a chance he could be back this season.
Wasn't the second surgery in December or January?
It was at the end of December, I think.
So it's only been 4 months.
Yeah, I think that'd be 4 months. Yeah. So yeah, it hasn't been 5 months. I don't think it's only 4 months. But I think
3.5 months actually. It's only been 3.5.
Well, he said at the end of April.
Okay, yeah, that's 4. Yeah.
So the thing is, with a re-injury of the same injury, I think they're probably going to be even more cautious than they were before. So I would be surprised if at 4 months he's back practicing and on the floor, considering, unless it's a situation where it wasn't like as bad, even though it got re-injured, and maybe it healed faster or something because he had already gone through some of the recovery from it, or like that's the only scenario I could see. Maybe he could be on the court, but short of that, I think they're going to wait until it is 100%, and they're not going to risk putting him back on the court at all until that they feel comfortable that it's something that he's not going to re-injure.
Yep. I agree with that. So I'm thinking about, for just the Spotify uploads, I uploaded the post-game stream last night if you want to listen back to any of it. But I'm thinking about cutting out picks against the spreads. Picks against the spread is kind of weird when it's audio only, just because there's a lot of dead time. But if you guys want picks against the spread and that, if you guys plan on listening to us on Spotify, let me know in chat. Let me know if I should cut that out or leave that in, because I've kind of gone back and forth on that. What do you think, Eric?
For what? I'm sorry, I missed the first.
Like for the Spotify uploads, just cutting out the picks against the spread segment, just because there's a lot of dead air on it.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Yeah, so
if
probably
you're able to do that easily.
Yeah, it's not hard. So yeah, we'll probably do that. I'll upload this to Spotify shortly. Yeah, but that'll just be like our special little YouTube thing, and then I'll just leave the conversations afterwards for the Blazers Uprise live uploads on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and we'll work on getting that on Apple for you all. So anyway, that's going to wrap up this stream. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of our Blazers Uprise live crew. We will see you again tomorrow night after the Celtics game. Hopefully you know what to look for in this game. We like to set it up where you guys can be looking for certain things and seeing how they play out as it happens live. So we'll be live tweeting it as always. Follow us on Twitter at TorJonesYT for me, at HoopShock for Eric, at Blazers Uprise YT for the channel. And with that being said, that's a wrap for this. Anything you want to end off with, Eric?
No. Hi, Mom. Bye, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Bye, Mom. Okay.
She said hi and bye within like a minute of each.
Hi, Eric's mom. Bye, Eric's mom. Bye to everyone else watching this stream right now. We will see you tomorrow. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.